Hello everyone, and welcome back for another RGB RPG's DM prep guide. Today we're taking a look at Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, and as always, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this video, so if you are a player or plan on being one in Descent into Avernus, go ahead and click away. But if you're a DM who wants to have a little bit more insight into how another DM might run this adventure, how one might prep for it, go ahead and stick around and check out this series. So today we are taking a look at Session 8 of our Descent into Avernus game, and the highlight of this session, the next couple sessions probably, is going to be the Van Thamper Villa and the dungeon beneath the villa. This is a really big turning point in the adventure. A lot of secrets come to light, a lot of suspicions are confirmed or debunked, and we really get our conclusion of our main section of Baldur's Gate before we go to Avernus. So, our parties are preparing to infiltrate the villa currently, and as such, the villa plays a huge part in all of that. So, the villa's a pretty decent size. Of course, the party does know that it is well guarded. There is patrols. Both of my groups have figured out how many patrols and how often they change guards and all of that good stuff. They're mostly kind of unhappy with their current jobs, and so they are lazy and inattentive and can be snuck past without too much difficulty. Of course, some failed checks could result in that changing, and they can also be talked into leaving or allowing the party to go in. There's several different ways that the party can get through this. Of course, if they decide to just go full hack and slash, then everybody in the house will be aware of it. These type of situations don't happen in a vacuum. A 12-person melee outside the grounds is going to draw all the attention of those inside. The guards will be prepared. They'll probably send word down below. All of these different things will happen if the party's not careful enough when they're getting into the house. We'll see just how things go with that. But there are several people inside of the house. There are 3 servants, 2 of which are in the same boat as the guards. They are unhappy with their current position inside of the house. They're mistreated, constantly afraid that they'll just simply be killed for stepping out of line. The only one that's truly loyal is the old manservant, who is also a devil worshiper. So, Fendrick there is the only one that will actually really try to thwart the party. The other 2, Galbary the cook and Umbra the young housekeeper, will not actively oppose the group. Those that will actively oppose the group are the many imps hiding throughout the house. The place is practically crawling with imps on the first floor and the second floor, one being directly there with Thirstwell. So these creatures invisibly hide throughout the house and will ambush whoever they can. This will be one of the times where surprise will really come into play. If the party is not careful with their entry into the house, with their exploration of the house, these imps could very well surprise them and get a full round in before the players can do anything against them. Imps, while they have low HP, they do have resistances and a pretty nasty poison attack, so they can be dangerous. The party's best friend against that imp is Mr. Slobberchops up here. He hangs out in the kitchen and wanders around the house whenever something interesting happens. He's a Tressum, he's a winged cat, and he has a few magical abilities. He can see invisible creatures, and he hates the imps. The imps are instructed specifically not to harm him because he's the family cat. But Slobberchops hates the imps, and if the party befriends him and, say, feeds him and succeeds on an animal handling check, Slobberchops will follow them around and point out imps for them. It's a pretty cool little interaction there. But yeah, that's really what we got on the first floor. There's some interesting treasures that they can come across, some paperwork they can come across here that links the Van Thamper family to some of the things. Not the concrete evidence that they're looking for, but something that'll start leading towards that. And then we have the dining room, again, swarming with imps and some wine bottles and other valuables they can take from there. The place is basically filled with random stuff that they could loot if they choose to, but mainly the first floor is just to introduce, like, hey, this house crawls with devils. We get upstairs where Thirstwell is. Now, we like to introduce, or I at least like to introduce, the fact that Thirstwell is here in the house and he's upstairs early on in the adventure, early on in their exploration of the house. Do that by have him calling down from upstairs. calling for his mother to make him a sandwich or something stupid like that. To really introduce, like, this is a craven, basically man child who's locked himself up in his room. Introducing him in that manner gives the players confidence to go and look for him upstairs, and it also makes sure that we get to that portion of the house, so they can go upstairs and really explore. So, if, say, for example, they accidentally come across this staircase leading down and decide to do that first, the knowledge that Thirstwell is upstairs usually prevents them from trying to go too far out of the place first before they at least check out Thirstwell. And we want them to do that because there's a lot of cool stuff up here that they can get into. Some cool traps, some cool combat encounters. Of course, Thirstwell himself, who could be used, as far as the players know, could be used as leverage against his mother. We'll go a little bit further into that in a minute. But we have Mortlock's room, we have Amric's room. There's cool stuff for them to get at in there, potential magic items. And, of course, the Lomra's bedroom and the Lomra's study slash, makeup closet could also have some interesting things in there for them, especially in these 3 chests. And, of course, we want them to get into the combat up here. There's 5 guards up here, the 5 loyal guards to Thirstwell. And, I'm strongly considering swapping one of them for a veteran or something more difficult for them. I'll take a look at that and decide if the party is up for that kind of a challenge. In fact, I think we may just drag a veteran onto the GM layer just in case. Yeah, just in case this fight seems like it might be a little too easy, we'll drop this guy on there, and that will certainly make it a lot less too easy. Cool. So, that's the people that are guarding Thirstwell's room. If they actually get to Thirstwell, they'll find him to be far more of a pushover than they might have expected him to be. He literally has 5 hit points. He has a couple little magic. I believe he has Sacred Flame, which he casts immediately upon somebody entering the room. But I have had many parties just run in and just Eldritch Blast into the face and instantly do like 15 damage in one hit. And like, okay, he's dead. It's pretty funny. I've had some people hang him out of a window to try and interrogate him, things like that. But Thirstwell's interaction is always funny because he's always far weaker than the group expects him to be. Then we, of course, have the Helmed Horror over here. Not quite so weak of an NPC. The Helmed Horror has huge resistances, a huge AC, as you can see with that 20, and is a very dangerous creature, difficult to take down. So yeah, but we're going to hint that the ritual has been ongoing for several days, so if the encounter up here does seem too gnarly for them, there is the possibility of them potentially taking a long rest up here before they go down below. We want the servants, the guards, Thirstwell to be able to tell the party that the Lomra has been downstairs for days and is not expected back anytime soon. She is in the middle of something big. Again, we'll get to that once we get to the dungeon below. So, that's really what we've got up here, and then we've got the 2 prisoners up here, Shalene and Kajil. One of them is an auditor who was supposed to inspect the sewer system below the Van Thamper's home, and the Van Thampers didn't want that to happen, so instead of allowing her to audit the place, they kidnapped her and chained her up here. The other one was an unlucky traveling salesman who, again, knocked on the wrong door, annoyed the wrong person, and was scooped up and brought up here. But yeah, just a couple prisoners up there. They don't know too much, but of course, any good aligned group would want to at least try to rescue them. Let's go ahead and get them some better art, too. So we'll go ahead and just grab one of our art, a little bit better art from our art library for them too. But moving on, that's really what we've got downstairs. There is a secret passage to the dungeon proper. However, if they take this passage, this is more of an escape route. If they use this passage as a point of ingress into the dungeon, they're in for some pretty nasty things. They'll basically drop right in the middle of a ritual that they probably don't want. If they open it, I'll telegraph it to them. Hey, you hear chanting. It sounds like there's a lot of people. You hear some unearthly voices, things like that. That should telegraph the danger of dropping right in from there. But yeah, so this is one of those prep sessions that I really do almost expect to cover multiple sessions. This will probably cover, I'd probably say at the bare minimum 2 sessions, maybe even as much as 3 or 4 with this one prep video, because now we are going to go ahead and take a look at the dungeon too. If they blow through these encounters up here and avoid combat in some situations and get to the dungeon quickly, we could very well be getting into the dungeon beneath the villa today. So let's go ahead and grab a couple commoners. Yeah, that's good for Shalene and Kajil. Just grab a random. That looks like a salesman if I ever saw one. Yep. Couple unlucky commoners here. All right, cool. All right, so down to the dungeon. This complex is a great one. And again, got this off of DM's Guild. There's some great supplements for this adventure down there, much better than the black and white maps that the adventure comes with. But yeah, so when they get down to the dungeon, one of the first things they'll encounter is a trio of spined devils waiting for them down there. On their own, these aren't really too dangerous, but in a group like this, they can be pretty substantial opponents. So, when they get down to here, there's a few different ways that they can go. Basically, have a left-right as soon as they exit the room. And left will lead them past the ritual chamber. Right will lead them past the prisoners. There's a nobleman down here, and then a spy from Candlekeep as well down in this area. The spy from Candlekeep was captured and stuck down here, and then the noble, they're just trying to get leverage on his family. But information can be had from either one of them. And then there's a few main features, a few main things that are happening here. There are 2 rituals underway when they get down into these cellars. The first is the one that Talamra herself is performing and has been working on for days and will be for days to come. And she will only stop if the party interrupts the outer ritual. And she is channeling the power from the Shield of the Hidden Lord, which we'll get to in a moment, as well as all of her innate power that she's getting from her patron, the Archduke Zariel. She's essentially channeling the energies that she needs to allow Baldur's Gate to be pulled down. Yeah, so that is only days away from completion, and that is what the Talamra is up to in there. The party's likely to enter in through this room up here, and if they do, they'll see several cultists engaging in worship of a barbed devil, and they're likely to either be noticed or try to straight up attack the devil, which is entirely possible as well. Either one of those will alert the Talamra down here, who will then enter and attack. I like to beef up the Talamra's stats a bit. You know, they've been hearing about this woman for a long time. She's supposed to be kind of like the BBEG of this area, and her stats were kind of weak to start off with. She was only CR4, so I like to use a reduced threat Warlock of the old one, Warlock of the Fiend, to represent her. And I kind of tone back her spellcasting a little bit. You know, she's not going to have access to 8th level spells like the Warlock does. We only let her go as high as 5th level, which is still pretty freaking strong, but she only has 3 spell slots as opposed to the original Warlock of the Fiend, which has many. So 3 spell slots, reduced level of those spells, and a few more hit points. Better than her walking in Eldritch Blast Punch, Eldritch Blast Punch. I want to show off that she can throw a solid, empowered punch if she wants to, but she is far more dangerous than just Eldritch Blast, Punch Face, Eldritch Blast, Punch Face, which is how the book has her. So yeah, this is likely to be the culmination. They're likely to go searching for Thavia's Krieg after this, but if they get here first, this is the climax. This is the big fight. Now over here, we have another ritual underway. This is something that I've kind of thrown in myself. They don't really have much going on in the book in this ritual site, but I really like to have this be there. The cultists are attempting to draw reinforcements from Avernus to help them. So they're performing a ritual to open a portal to Avernus. And unbeknownst to them, the portal's location on the other side has been overwhelmed by demons, as demons are pouring out of the river Styx directly beneath Elturel, which we'll get to later. But pretty awesome thing that they get to experience there. But I digress. It's been overrun, so instead of their devil friend that they expect to come through, a demon just hops on through and starts slaughtering all of these cultists. Um, it's one of my favorite things to do in this adventure, where the party turns the corner and they see this massive hyena-esque demon just burst out from a room, start slaughtering cultists, and then they get to decide: do I just want to kind of leave this alone, or do we want to do something about this? One party stood back and just let them slaughter all the cultists, and then went in and beat up the demon while it was reduced. And the others immediately entered the fray, and it was cultists. It was just this massive free for all with the party, the cultists, and this demon, pure bedlam. But anyway, it turns out pretty awesome. And then we have Thavius Krieg's quarters up here. If they get here first, they find a few hints of what happened to this poor individual. I shouldn't say that. He's not a good guy. But basically, in a moment of weakness, he was approached by Zariel when El Terrell was about to be overrun by the undead 50 years ago. At this point, he was approached by Zariel, who told him, I will save your city if you have your people sign this for the next 50 years. And it was the Creed Resolute, which essentially bound every Elder Guardian citizen to service in the Blood War. They didn't know that at the time, of course, but the wordage basically says you are to defend Elturel and its foes from here till eternity, in life and in death. And when Elturel gets dragged down into the Nine Hells, Elturel becomes part of the Nine Hells, damning all of its citizens to fight on the side of the Nine Hells against the demon horde in the Blood War. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. We really get a lot of the history here. Find out that Thavius Krieg was a holy man who has been thoroughly and completely corrupted. And that's his room, where we get to see all those clues. And then, of course, we have down here where Krieg himself is. This is one of the weirdest and coolest encounters in the book, because it can go so many different ways. And it's one of those things where, as a DM, you really have to be prepared for any number of crazy things to happen here. So when they enter into the room, they see Krieg kneeling in front of a shield with the visage of a horrible face upon it. And he's kneeling in front of the shield and he's talking to it. He's pleading with it for mercy for his soul. How can I get away? How can I get out of this? And it's important to note that if your players overhear him pleading, he's not pleading for the safety of Elturel. He's pleading for his own life, for his own soul. He is selfish to the core. He doesn't care about the people of Elturel anymore. That is done. That ship has sailed. He is trying to save his own ass now. But he's seen pleading with this shield, and we introduce one very important NPC here, and it is not Thavius Krieg. But one of the other things that they'll see is that the shield, that he's talking to the shield, but the shadow that Thavius is casting against the wall has little wings and is almost porcine, almost pig-like in its appearance of its shadow, to signify that Krieg has been thoroughly and wholly corrupted, and his fate is now to become this fiend in the Nine Hells. So, of course, seeing this, Rhea and all of these different things, Rhea, of course, has a huge thing to deal with this. I like to gauge the party's interactions with Rhea, and off of that, does Rhea become despondent and shut down? Does she go into a rage and go after Krieg? Does she try to defend Krieg still and still hold out to the fact that Krieg can be redeemed, that she still idolizes this man? Several different ways that can go, and I really like to just play that by ear. Whatever the situation I feel calls for at the time is Rhea's response to Thavius Krieg, his clear and obvious betrayal, and his now his damnation. And of course, this room is where all the treasure's at. Each one of these coffers that you see here does have stuff in it, and the players can open and take as much as they want to from there. Coinage itself isn't going to be too important for many sessions, but the accumulation of wealth is always good in this game, and there will be an opportunity for them to spend it later. And I will do my best to kind of signal them that, because I've had parties who be like, we have thousands and thousands of gold and nothing to send it on, and now we're going to hell where there's not even a gold currency. Gold can be spent in hell. I'll try to let them know that. But yeah, so Krieg there, and then we of course introduce the Shield of the Hidden Lord. This is a big NPC for the game. It is one of the 2 continuing NPCs that they're going to pick up now, and they will have with them for the rest of the game, probably. Rhea is about the first half NPC, and then the Shield of the Hidden Lord, and then one other NPC are the more permanent ones. Shield of the Living Lord is a sentient shield that has some pretty amazing abilities, mostly fire based, so they're not that great against the devils and the demons, but they are still pretty badass. Um, Fireball, Wall of Fire being able to be cast from this shield. And of course, it's a sentient shield. It has a demon, a devil lord, a pit fiend is trapped inside of this shield as punishment and has been trying for millennia to escape. It is trying to convince Krieg to find a way to release it from the shield. And once Krieg, it's basically trying to convince Krieg that Krieg's own salvation lies within the Hidden Lord's salvation. So once the Hidden Lord sees that there's this powerful party here and that they're here to save El Terrell and all these things, Shield of the Hidden Lord will try to attach to them. It will try its best to aid the party, but also it's only working towards its own end. So if its own objectives align with the party getting what they want, it will legitimately help them out. But again, this is a pit fiend. It is at its core an evil force, a selfish force, and whether or not the party trusts it or not really comes up to their own judgment and their own insight against this creature. So yeah, the Shield of the Hidden Lord is a big one that will stick with the party for the rest of the game. There's a few different candidates here that may go with that, although I kind of have a feeling who's going to pick it up. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I think we've gone through just about everything. We're over to our checklist. This one is an interesting one because dungeon crawls like this always tend to take quite a while because they could labor at a door for 10 minutes out of game trying to figure out what to do while just a few seconds has passed in game. So I really do expect this to be a video that's going to cover a couple different sessions, but we've got everything from their entry into the villa all the way down to Thavius Krieg's plotted out with our keys on there. Rhea and Thirstwell are the two big NPCs we expect to hit today. The Shield of the Hidden Lord is likely to show up, but we'll delve into that character more when we get there. Done with the lantern. We are just looking at the Van Thamper Villa today. Lots of NPCs, lots of potential enemies. Thirstwell's on there. We have the guards, the imps, the helmed horror that we talked about, a slew of devils and demons, cultists, cult fanatics, and of course the llama herself. Anytime that we're going through a dungeon crawl, the list of enemies goes through the roof. Our items are, of course, the Shield of the Hidden Lord and the enormous amount of valuables that are in the Van Thamper Villa. But yeah, that's what we've got for today. Yeah, it'll probably be a couple weeks before we have to make another little video like this, but in the meantime, thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you next time.